My name is Marcus Ellery, and I remember everything about the moment I passed out. There was no drama, and I didn't have a big plan. There wasn't a single slip or gasp for air like in the movies. It was calm. Too quiet. I was sitting in my office chair with contracts and charts all around me when the pain shot deep into my body, my stomach and spread like flames. There was a sharp, painful tightening, then nausea, and then I tried to stand up, but my legs gave out. I reached for my phone and called Delilah with shaking hands. Didn't answer. I called again and got message. Then I called our 18-year-old son Jaden. He was newly independent and always hooked to his phone. If he didn't answer, Celia, our daughter, 22, coming home from college for the party, nothing. I stared at the screen in shock. These were my family and friends. The ones I paid for school and stayed late to work extra hours for. Ones I asked myself, over and over again, where were they by the I could hardly talk when I called 911. The operator kept asking me things I couldn't answer. My breathing was getting worse. Everything spun quickly. The pain inside me felt like a blade was dragging across it. Even so, silly as it may sound, I still thought someone would knock on the door and surprise me. Delilah would show up, scold me for not putting on my shoes, and help me get to the car. Celia would then make a sour joke about it. And told me Jaden would take my bag to the emergency room, but no one showed up. When the firemen got there, I was lying on the floor with my face cold against the hardwood and my fingers sticky from something. I fell over while trying to crawl to the door. A fireman asked, "Sir, can you hear me?" I tried to nod, but my eyes were closed. Nothing else was clear. The next thing I remember is waking up to bright lights and the taste of metal in my mouth. Noisy tools and wires. A doctor leaning over me and saying, "You're lucky," in a calm but firm voice. "You were out of it for almost a minute before we got your pulse. You lost a lot of blood from an ulcer that burst." He heard a nod from behind him from a nurse. "Her tag," said Rowan, and she had kind eyes. I asked the question that hurt more than the pain in my gut. "Did my wife call?" Rowan waited. There was a pause that went on longer than it should have. "We called your emergency contacts," she said. I left voicemails and texts several times, but no one answered. I drank or I choked on my own throat pain. Not even my wife could help me. Rowan looked at me, at the screen, and then back to me. A few hours later, she texted me, "You being dramatic, you suggested we give you pain medicines, and waited it out." I should have been mad. I should have screamed, ripped out all four, and demanded answers. "I'm sorry," the nurse said as she looked at me with sympathy. All I could do was laugh, making a miserable sound that hurt my chest. Said in a low voice, as if it were a funeral, "Maybe it was." I lay there staring at the ceiling tiles, felt smaller than they had in years. That's when everything started to move. The base cracked and the years of weight I didn't know I was carrying hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't just hurt or sick, I was useless. Later, when the morphine wore off, I thought about all the times I'd sucked up pain. The migraines I had ignored, my back spasms to mow the yard, and I pushed through to finish work. My heartburn had been building up for months while I stood at fundraisers that Delilah wanted to go to, and every time I did, I was told I was being emotional and needy. I never asked for much, though. I just gave and gave. And the one time I was bleeding out on the floor of my office while they laughed in sequined dresses under fairy lights. I asked again if anyone had come by when they wheeled me into recovery. Rowan gave me a gentle shake of that was the nail in the coffin. "Not even a text, not even a family member has called to check in yet," she said. I sent a quick message to the nurse station. Rowan wrapped the blanket around my legs, like I was a child. "You'll be fine," she said. I did believe her, but not because she thought I wasn't going to be okay because of a quiet snap inside me. I knew I would be okay even after surgery or careful tracking of my vital signs, but never going back. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. In all seriousness, I looked at the monitor and saw numbers moving across the screen. A beating, a breath, a life that almost wasn't. They kept me living, but my family had already buried me in their minds. They called me too dramatic. As I bled on my clothes and asked someone to listen to my wife, kids, they didn't know how close they were to losing me. Or maybe they did. They didn't care enough. That night, as I lay in a hospital bed by myself, there were strangers around me who had done more for me in 12 hours than my family had in years. I promised not the one you write down or say out loud and keep tucked behind your ribs next to the scar tissue. I wouldn't do that. Please come back. I won't fight for a seat at a table that treated me like furniture. If I had almost died then, it might have been time to start living my life for myself without praise or acceptance. Without the false hope of a family that had painfully shown me how little they cared about me. Yes, I did crash, but it wasn't a big deal. There wasn't a blast or a fire. Fall, a slow bleed, a death that no one saw, and a resurrection that no one was allowed to when I opened my eyes again. It might have been morning, but it was hard to tell because the hospital curtains were closed, and the air was cool. That made time feel like it was going around in circles. My mouth was dry, and the taste of salt was still on my tongue. My abdominal pain had softened to a heavy ache. It's the kind of pain that makes you feel like you're walking on bricks. Your gut. I slowly turned my head every inch. The thought of having almost died. There were 4 slow beeps, and my phone was on the tray table next to me. I grabbed it like it weighed 50 pounds. 5% battery. 1 alert. Delilah tagged you in a post. I blinked. The ridiculousness of it made me laugh out loud before I even opened it. I tapped the screen, shaking not because I was feeling something, but because I was weak. Watching the little blue circle spin while it loaded. The Wi-Fi in the hospital was slow, but not as slow as the fear that was setting in. My chest. I wasn't sure what to expect, maybe a message or a missed call. A picture of her worried beside my hospital bed with the words "I'm sorry" hidden in the caption. Just some common sense. Something that showed she cared. The picture loaded. Delilah, Celia, Jaden, and her sister Lorna, who calls herself a diva. The in front of golden lights. 4 of them stood with their mouths open and their glasses raised. Delilah was wearing the gold dress. She spent 3 weeks choosing the one she said made a statement. Celia curled her hair like she was getting ready for a picture. A magazine, and Jaden was wearing a suit that I had paid extra for. There were pink roses and fairy lights behind him. Gala of Grace. A shiny sign above them caught my attention. As I stared at them, I felt the bitter pressure rise again. I wasn't sick this time, but somewhere behind my ribs. The comment was worse. So proud of my sister could not have done this, without Marcus watching the kids while I got ready. I felt blessed and dreaded it twice. As I watched the kids I was hooked up to, my fingers got tighter around the phone until my pull matched the dull pain in my side. She told everyone I was watching our kids like a Doc Savage sidekick while I had one foot in the grave. Family is the most important thing in the world. I wondered if that meant I could cry alone in my office while my phone rang. Rang without being answered. Did that mean anything? Or was I just a line in the story she told everyone? Not even the lie. It was the tone, casual and sure, as if she had practiced it. It was a beautiful story. She had her moment in the spotlight while I was cut open on a table. She toasted her sister. While doctors stitched me back together, she wrote a caption. I was lying in a white gown and looking at the ceiling. I zoomed in on the tiles and wondered if I was already dead. Their faces shone with the kind of happiness that you can't fake. It hit me. Harder than I thought it would be. My daughter laughing at a joke, my son smiling, and the pleasure of being seen. Delilah? Delilah? Her eyes sparkled like they did when she danced in That There Was a Time in the Kitchen years ago. Before the kids and the job, when she looked at me like I was just background noise. Lighter without me there, radiant. That post hurt not only because of what it said, but also because it told the truth. For years, I wouldn't see that I had turned into a reserve. A default setting, or something they brought up when it was convenient for them. Mark watched the kids when it helped the story. Mark pays the bills, does what's expected of them. And when I stopped doing that, when I broke, when my body failed, when I needed them,